Bernanke Blues, part 1 of 2. Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed, is pursuing money creation, has been for the last month, in order to feed so much liquidity into the system that eventually people will stop hiding out in government bonds and buy slightly riskier assets, which would be corporate bonds or corporate commercial paper or municipal bonds. That's the idea. The idea is to induce people to take slightly higher risk with their funds. At the moment, even overnight loans are considered risky because a financial institution could go out of business in 24 hours. Now, why it is that the Fed buying short-term securities from companies like General Electric, commercial paper, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. If private companies are unwilling to lend, or money market funds are unwilling to lend, or if other sources of funds are unwilling to lend, say, to General Electric, then why the hell will they be willing to do so if GE borrows from the Fed? Why won't they just continue to borrow from the Fed? Why would this change in any way? I don't understand that. But Bernanke is an activist. Bernanke is doing something. He's taking real action. And he understands what he's doing. He doesn't know whether it'll work. This contrasts with the Secretary of the Treasury, who for a year has been saying, we have a plan for this, we have a plan for that, and the economy is doing well, and we can contain the difficulties with some prime mortgage, but then now prime mortgage and commercial real estate and credit card loans and leverage loans and international loans, all packaged together in ways that make them extremely risky. And this is the thing that the Treasury is now going to work out. The mortgage bailout, the bailout of Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns was bailed out. The bondholders were bailed out. Those are the people, basically, who provided most of the capital, and they deserved to lose it. And instead, the taxpayer covered it. Lehman Brothers was permitted to fail, and because they were so involved in the commercial paper market, nobody who has funds to lend is willing to lend out for fear of losing. And AIG, which was a guarantor of all sorts of risky assets, using the funds from real operations, from insurance, real regulated insurance operations, to piss away on these high-risk things, which provided huge bonuses for their employees, particularly for their management. So, what we have here is not activism. What we have here is crony capitalism. That is, these people made mistakes, and now, because the country is going to be hurt, then they have to be bailed out. And you don't just bail out the good banks, because God knows Citibank is a horrible institution. Nobody would buy their stock under any normal conditions. But they got $25 billion because they're big, and because they're part of the crony system. This is not socialism. Socialism is where you go in with a program in which the public owns something instead of private individuals. And the history has not been particularly good for socialism. But this is more the notion of fascism, where the important people in the society get together and run things, and they're doing it for the ordinary people, such as you and me. You can tell I'm ordinary. Look where I'm being photographed. Okay, so the bailout of these institutions is going to be unending, because there's almost no lending institution that's not in some way benefited from the housing bubble, the credit bubble. I live in a street of shanties built in the early 50s, 1,000 square foot houses that are basically mostly rent houses, are owned by 90-year-old people, or empty because the person who lived here for 50 years died. But there's SUVs lining the street. So I think, we've had 8 years, we've had more than 8 years, we've had 20 years of a system that produced SUVs, and now we have a little debt. So, the constructive suggestions that have been made, one by Wayne Angel, former Fed Open Market Committee member, said, why don't we turn Fannie Mae into a real lending institution by providing it with real capital instead of simply patching it up? But of course they would have to get rid of all the people who work there now, because they're all corrupt. And in our system, we only provide capital to companies where we can be assured that the same management will prevail. So, what we have, I think, is a real activist Fed pumping out money that people are unwilling to spend. We have now on Wall Street large numbers of people working for big firms who say the only thing that will save us is a large investment in public infrastructure. Well, that's a democratic idea. And we know what Democrats do. I mean, they piss away the public money on wasteful projects. Unlike the SUVs that cover the parking lots where I try to see over the next car so I won't have an accident getting out of a parking lot. If we do get substantial public investment in roads, water projects, but mainly in energy, building up the electric grid, this is something that can take the liquidity, can take the potential loans that are out there, that banks could make, that lending institutions could make, and provide customers for them, because we'll have people who are actually producing something, and people who will be producing something for the people who work on the infrastructure. And we might develop an industry that is not wasteful and corrupt in the process, if there's better oversight than there has been in the credit bubble. That's the end of part 1.